We are on Daf Yudalid Amud Bet 14. We got up to 14b3, I believe. No,
B1.
we're to B1 still. Okay. Says the Gemara. So now we're going to go into the actual idea itself. Avel eno noheg aveluto baregel. You see, that's where we are. 14b1, right at the bottom. And Avel eno noheg aveluto baregel. And Avel does not do. He does not practice his avelut on the holiday. Machloket, what that means? Does it mean he does not practice it in public, or does it mean he does not practice it even in private? Machloket rishonim. Either way. But the point is that the avelut gets pushed off from the holiday, from in front of the holiday. Shnei ma, like the pasuk says, "V'samachta b'chagecha," you have an obligation to be happy on the holiday. Says the Gemara. If the avelut was before the holiday, mi'ikara means from the before. Ati aseh derabim v'dachei aseh deyachid. The rabim, the aseh derabim, which is the positive commandment of celebrating the holiday. It's a aseh derabim for either of two reasons. Either because it is celebrated or achieved by rabim, or because it's done birabim. So either the celebration happens in front of many, or because rabim is because all of the people, all of the community is obligated in the same mitzvah. Okay, yeah.
Were any of the Avel laws created in the midst of this, or there's a set of Avel laws that they follow?
The set of Avelut laws that happened before this.
Okay, and
the question is, are they also continuing on the holiday?
So that's creating law?
No,
there?
not creating a law. Asking whether the pre-existing law of Avel is relevant on the holiday also or not.
The bank of laws.
Correct. Okay, but there's nothing new here. No. Says the Gemara. So the Aseh Rabim comes along, v'dacheh Aseh Yachid. It overwhelms, it pushes off the Aseh of the Yachid. V'i Avelut dehashtahu, and if it is a Avelut of right now, in other words, the mourning happens on the Chol HaMoed itself, lo ati Aseh Yachid v'dacheh Aseh Rabim. Then when we have a private aseh, which is now trying to supersede a pre-existing aseh rabim, that for sure it does not do. Everyone understand? So, number one, I'm already on aseh yachid highway. Says the Gemara, but aseh rabim comes along and knocks it off of the path that it's already on. Says the Gemara, what if the aseh happens on the day? Then the Gemara says that for sure. If the aseh rabim is the pre-existing condition, and then the aseh yachid, which is the commandment of avelut, tries to come after the aseh rabim is already established, that for sure it doesn't do. Now, just to be clear, what is this aseh yachid? Machloket, whether that means that it's a din deoraita or not. We discussed, is avelut mideoraita or not. So the proof that they bring is from the Navi. Evel yachid asilach. So if you're bringing me a proof from the prophets, that's not midoraita, right? Remember, right? The Old Testament versus the Bible, right? Samachta b'chagecha is in the Torah, but the Evel Yachid Asilach, which is in Echa, that's from the prophets. Now, how could anybody then hold? There's a machloket rishonim, if it is or if it isn't. How could anybody hold that it's midoraita if the origin source is from the prophets? The answer is, we already saw this idea before.
Oh, I was going to say with Miriam when the camp stops.
What do you mean?
We didn't move. Miriam passes away, and then Bnei Israel stays for 3 days.
You're saying that would be a proof. Who said that may have been a specific commandment out of Hakarat HaTov to Miriam? So the answer is that there are times where the Gemara says Divrei Torah midivrei Kabbalah lo yalfinan. Gemara Babakama initiates this idea. You can't learn a biblical commandment from, or even a halacha from Divrei Kabbalah, from the words of the prophets. However, says the Gemara, Gilui Milta, when it's just revealing a pre-existing truth. So in other words, wait, let me finish the sentence. Okay. When Yecheskel, or when the prophet says, of course we're doing this, they're just telling you that was already the prevalent custom. They weren't introducing the law, and then we're trying to make a prophet stated law into a biblical law. The prophet is just saying, this is what we do. That means that it already existed from before him. I'll give you one more example of this, and I'll take your question, Nathan. Someone once said to me, they said, there's a certain statement in Jewish lore which has no preeminent source. It's not an old source. It's something which snuck in to Jewish, and there are examples of that. Things that kind of sneak into our canon, which kind of like, oh yeah, this is a Jewish statement, but it doesn't have any Jewish origin. Okay? One such example is, En davar ha'omed b'fnei haratzon. There's nothing that stands in front of will. So if you want something, Im tirtzu zelo agada is the Zionist version of that idea. Okay? Where there's a will, there's a way. So that idea, it's always stated as if it's a Jewish idea. There is no biblical, prophetic, Talmudic source to that halakha. Another one. En navi be'iro. There's no prophet in his city. You will not find it anywhere. But it's used, it's brought down in Sfarim as if it is. So I remember Rabbi Hartman telling me there's no source for it. And then I found in one of the Rishonim that he quotes it. But what's interesting is he says, is kayadua, like it's well known, that means that in the time of the Rishonim, he was saying that this was already an accepted idea amongst the Jewish people. That means that it's really predates Rishonim. Okay? That's on that exact example. So the same thing would be here. Evel Yachid is not the proof that it's Mideoraita, but we're just seeing that he was speaking about it in that way. In either scenario, the word Evel Yachid over there does not mean a Aseh de Yachid, a mitzvah of a Yachid. Evel Yachid over there means you should make an Avelut as if it was the death of an only child. That's what it's talking about with regards to the Churban. Does anyone want to grab whoever's phone that is and shut it off? I think someone's phone. Yeah? Okay. Let's continue. Sorry, question. Nathan.
Didn't we have an example before Miriam with Metushelach and a delay into the flood? When after he died, that there was a period of mourning that was observed for a week or something like that?
What's the alarm box?
It's the system, the alarm system.
Oh, okay. I'm not chashuv enough to know the code.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, you got it.
6:13.
No, I spoke too soon. Okay, I guess leave it.
You want me to go get the security?
Yeah, maybe ask William.
They got it.
Okay, so I don't remember an example of what's it called, of a biblical mandate. So again,
It was a mandate. It's just out of respect for Metushelach. I think Hashem delayed the flood by a week or so.
right, but that would be a limud, not something that says it in the text.
Right.
Right? So we don't have it. Where do we have an example of Avelut? We have a few in the Torah, by the way. You have it by Aharon. You have it by Moshe. Right? You have it by Yaakov.
And
Abraham and Sarah?
Abraham for Sarah.
Abraham is L'spor l'Sarav livkota. It does not say Avelut. Okay? So it's not, you'd have to have a very specific pasuk there. It talks about Avelut in the context of Aharon. You know that they were there and they were very upset.
Aharon, Vayidom Aharon.
Not Vayidom. Vayidom is when he has the story with Nadav and Avihu.
Yeah.
The example of Avelut is it says Vayivku oto kol Yisrael, and all of the Jewish people cried for him.
Oh, for Aharon.
For Aharon. But it doesn't show.
An example of mourning.
Not an example of mourning. That's what I'm not looking for. I'm looking for is a commandment of mourning. So in other words, let's say the Jewish people observed mourning for 10 years. That still doesn't tell you that you have an obligation to mourn.
They did it.
They maybe did it. They felt Avelut. It doesnning mean that there was a mitzvah. Huh?
What do you make of it?
What do I make of what?
That it's not in the Torah.
Nothing. In other words, normally what you would make of that is that it's a mitzvah midrabanan. Okay? However, the Rosh has a whole to do as to whether or not it's midoraita. And there are times when we find things that are considered biblical commandments that you don't find explicitly stated in Pesukim. Like as an example, let's say there's a limud from one of the 13 attributes that you could learn the Torah from. Gzera shava, binyan av, right? Hekesh, Is that deoraita or drabanan? The rabbis gave you one of the 13 ways to learn up a pasuk in the Torah. Deoraita or drabanan. Our brains would tell us it's midrabanan. But then we're missing the whole point that actually the Torah that was given on Sinai, Torah shebichtav, along with Torah sheba'al peh is the 13 attributes. So that was given on Sinai. So that's literally biblical.
Yeah, it becomes, right.
You see? So sometimes we don't understand that. My rabbi also explained that there are times when you'll learn something, it's obvious from Svara. My rabbi brought Shitot and Rishonim, that something which is obligatory from Svara means the logical extrapolation, is also midoraita. Okay, so these concepts are, you could find a scenario where something would be midoraita, but it's not necessarily in the pasuk. Okay, says the Gemara, continues. Okay, so we've now discussed the concept of avelut. Says the Gemara, minude. By the way, again, we're not going to get into it here, but this idea of the avelut being nidche, pushed off, is something that a lot of people have had some experience with. Someone passes away right before the holiday, or someone passes away and the Shiv'ah goes over the holiday, so that the Shiv'ah ends the avelut.
Yes.
Right? What happens if the person...
Not the Shiva ends.
Avelut ends the Shiv'ah. The holiday ends the Avelut and the Shiva. Okay? If the person passes away on the holiday,
Before the Shana, it's over.
then we wait until after. So you could have a scenario where Shiva begins 8 days later.
Yeah.
It's very
And
weird.
there's delaying.
It's very, very weird. So when does it cancel? It only cancels it if it's already, and by the way, that's what we were just talking about. That's the mi'ikara versus the hashta. Okay?
That's where we learn it.
This is the example of it. Yes. This is the example.
Not making the halakha here.
No, it is making a halakha. Not making a new halakha in Avelut. It's telling you that the holiday pushes off Avelut. In a case where it was there before, it pushes it off to a degree where we don't come back. If you haven't yet, it pushes it off so it starts after.
But it doesn't say that here.
It doesn't give us the details, but it tells you the core idea. Yes, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to do.
The principles.
Was it already existing rule, or was it they're figuring it out here? That's what I was.
The dichiyah, yes, but not the laws of Avelut. You understand the difference? Nothing new was invented in Avelut here. The only question is the holiday knocking out all the pre-existing laws of Avelut, or is the holiday pushing off all the pre-existing laws of Avelut? But Avelut, we didn't learn anything new here. Okay, is that, yeah? All right, let's go. Says the Gemara, minudeh, what happens in a case when a person is excommunicated? Maushi yinhag niduyav banregel. Now, to us, we don't really have an understanding of what this concept is, nidui, right? Nidui is that there was a power in the hands of the chachamim and the rabbis that they could put someone in nidui, excommunicate them. You find little snippets of this in today's day and age. What's the similar concept that you'll find with this?
Siruv?
Get, excellent. Person who has a siruv against them. The idea of, what do you mean, you can't come into the Beit Knesset? That's this. Okay, so part of the laws of being in minudeh is in this. So what happens if a person was minudeh, if you remember the case was, so he wasn't allowed to shave, and then they freed him from his nidui on the holiday. So since he wasn't allowed to shave before, he's then allowed to shave on Chol HaMoed. That was the core halakha in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, minudeh, ma'ushin hag niduya beregel. What is he supposed to do all the obligations of the nidui on the holiday or not? And it has a lot of the elements that are similar to Avelut and that we've discussed already previously. So in other words, being in contact with other people, washing his clothing, getting shaved. The Gemara answers. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef answers, Ta Shema. Come close and listen. Danin dine nefashot v'dine makot v'dine mamonot. The halacha is that a person on the holiday the Beit Din is able to judge a case of nefashot, a case of makot, and a case of mamonot. What are the three things that they're judging? One is monetary damages. So you owe $1,000. The second thing is you have malkut. We have to give you. We got to whip you. Third thing is what's it called? Is the laws of nefashot of getting killed. Okay, death penalty. Says Rabbi Yosef, V'ilo tzayit dina. And if the halacha is that someone who gets that kind of a ruling does not have to listen to the law on the holiday, mishamtinan le, then for sure we would, if the person doesn't listen to what Bet Din said, what is the Bet Din's get out of jail free card when the guy doesn't listen to their legal ruling? The law, what they would normally do is, they would put him in nidui. So it can't be, says Rav Yosef, that we're going to allow the Bet Din to be operative on the holiday when they don't have a means of enforcing their laws on someone who's obstinately not listening. Is that clear? Yes, everyone got that point? Yes. Okay, so according to that, we're going to prove from the fact that you're allowed to judge cases on the holiday, that it must be that you're allowed to give nidui on the holiday. And if you're allowed to give nidui on the holiday, it must be that nidui is actually practiced. Because if you could give nidui, but it would not be practiced, at this point you're not greasing the wheels of him listening.
This is telling you that during Chol HaMoed, the courts were in session.
Courts in session,
working and doing
which then proves that not only the court's in session, but that you could issue an excommunication and the person would have to listen to it. So he's not absolved from the punishments of nidui. So the question was, does a minudeh do his nidui things on the Chol HaMoed? The answer must be yes. Proved from the fact that the court is in session.
Why wouldn't the court wait till after the Chol HaMoed to be in session? In other words, it's a
the halakha is that whenever Bet Din is supposed to be in session, they're supposed to be in session. If they're precluded from being in session, then they're not in session.
Does this show that a yachid then pushes off the rabbi? Because I'm taking the yachid
No.
in the court and
No,
pushing
no, no,
off
no.
the rabbi of the holiday?
No, not necessarily. Yeah, go ahead. Because this is not a aseh. It's not a mitzvah. Yeah,
Three of these
That's
take
surprising.
away from the samantha
would
that
be-
I get.
they do.
So how can you possibly do it? And you're not allowed to delay a death penalty, so if you find the guy, you're going to
Kill him.
tonight.
100%. One more time. To be very, very clear. Let's say somebody dies on the holiday. So the guy's not going to be happy. True. That's just life. This is life. You killed someone. Bet Din's in there now. Do something. The question over there is, I'm sitting here as a person who wants to do a mitzvah. I have two mitzvot in front of me. One is this mitzvah. One is this mitzvah. Which mitzvah should I do? That's different when I've done something that Bet Din now has an obligation in the name of justice to carry out on me. That's the difference between these two cases. Okay?
I'm just surprised that Beit Din would sit on Chol HaMoed.
Right, me too.
I don't think it's surprising.
Me too.
Oh, it takes the joy out.
very-
Don't steal money, don't kill people, and don't do it. Then Bet Din won't have to rule against you on the holiday. Recognize that at the time,
regular duty,
the time of the this is like peak. When do the most? Yeah, Morris came in the perfect time. When are the courts the most jammed?
Just killed a guy in the middle of Chol HaMoed.
Holidays.
Holidays. Xmas, New Year's. Why? Because 10 zillion people are in Times Square. Everyone is rowdy. Everyone is drinking. Lots of mistakes are happening. Remember, during the time of the Moed, the whole of the Jewish people go to Jerusalem. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay? So things are happening. You have to rule on cases. You need order.
Some order.
100%. So therefore, Bet Din is supposed to be ruling. Says the Gemara, someone who was excommunicated before, right? Ati regel dachile. It would then supersede. It would then take over the nidui. Now that we're gonna, what's it called? We're not going to be able to have a new ban that goes on the guy. If an old ban would get shoved off, a new ban is for sure not going to land. The same logic that we had before. If old avelut is pushed off, how much more so new avelut won't land. So if an old excommunication is gonna be knocked off, how much more so would a new one? So obviously it must be that someone who's excommunicated, the things of their excommunication do not disappear on Chol HaMoed.
I don't see any parallel whatsoever.
Explain.
Excommunication means you've done something so egregious
Yeah.
that the kahal, the rabbinate,
Bet Din.
Yeah.
is knocking you out of the box. You can't come to synagogue.
True.
You can't take part in the kahal.
So
So why would that be knocked out because of a holiday?
It's the same argument.
It's not.
It's an identical
I'm not understanding.
Not knocking it out.
I don't understand. One more
So you're
time.
allowed to
The
do it.
Gemara asked the question: is nidui pushed off or
Oh,
not?
it doesn't. I
No, it
missed that
doesn't
part.
knock it out.
Does not.
He's saying you do have.
But if it would be knocked out, a pre-existing excommunication, for sure a new excommunication would not land. And if we're letting you rule on a case, it must be that you could land a new one. So if a new one would land, it can't be. Right. So has to be that the pre-existing. I was wondering if my guy was calling you, by the way. That's what I was wondering.
No, logic dictates. Thank God.
Okay.
Logic prevails.
Baruch Hashem. No, I'm just saying, we were wondering if my phone call was your phone call.
Oh, no.
The guy's call.
I did get a phone call.
No, if he killed the guy and he called the
I
fire.
got a phone call like that a few weeks ago, so I told you,
Sheep
you
the
know.
flitch. Okay, let's continue. Amalei Abaye, says the Gemara.
Top
Vidilma le'iyune bedine. Maybe when we're talking about this idea that Beit Din is in session, all we mean is that the case is going to come to Beit Din, but not that they're going to rule on the case. So we've already discussed this in Masechet Makot, excellent, where the halacha is that Beit Din, that once they rule on a case, that's Nigmar Hadin. At that point, we talked about there's no more, of Edim Zomemim, right? We can't Zomem the guy because the court case is already over. So Nigmar Hadin is when the gavel comes down. Up until the gavel comes down, what is Beit Din doing? Nothing.
They're deliberating.
They're deliberating. They're reviewing a case. So therefore, there's no possible outcome of excommunication, because there's also no possible outcome of a law or a ruling that he's disobeying. Okay? So the Gemara says, don't prove it from there. Maybe all that means that Beit Din is in session is to hear cases, but not that they're going to announce or rule on the case.
So he's disagreeing. He's disagreeing with
He's saying that you can't bring a proof from there because maybe the Mishnah does not say what you say it says. You say it says Beit Din is in session. I'm saying maybe that just means that they're listening.
And they're not,
But it's
They're not ruling.
It's not ruling.
So your whole knockout punch was if they were ruling. And if they're ruling, we need something to substantiate the ruling and to uphold the ruling. So therefore, obviously, excommunication works. So obviously, that means that excommunication before also would not have done, because if during would land, then before for sure would not. So that whole proof is built on the assumption that court means that they're ruling. But maybe court just means that they're hearing.
But if they're not ruling, why is it in session during the holiday?
In session means to lead, to listen.
The ruling is
Why would they do
How
it?
important is it? Why can't it wait?
Well,
after the holiday?
there's a backlog of cases. Remember the case in the context. All the Jewish people come to Jerusalem. What happens right after the holiday?
They go home.
Everybody goes home. The ramping up of cases that need to be heard in Beit Din, especially because there's people who live in villages that don't even have a Beit Din.
So to avoid a backup.
So to avoid the backup, it would make sense. Sorry?
How much can they accomplish?
It's not only one Beit Din, it's all the Batei Din.
Would this be the death before the Chag and then the mourning getting delayed? Where now the mourning is not taking place until after the holiday. In this case, the litigation or the ruling is not until after the
Well, we don't know. All Abaye is saying is don't bring me a proof from there because maybe it doesn't mean that there's ruling. Okay? Says the Gemara, V'dilma le'iyune bedina. Maybe it just means to be ma'ayen. Dilo temachi. Because if you don't say that that's what the Braita means, that they're just listening but not ruling, Dinei nefashot katani, the case that you refer to, where you're going to kill the guy, hachinami de katlinane. It would also mean that they're going to kill the guy on the holiday. V'haka mimne misimchat yom tov. Isn't that going to eliminate simchat yom tov? Titania, why? Listen to this. This is mind blowing. Who are we talking about? Before you read the Gemara, don't read ahead.
trying to read behind.
Who would you think we're talking about? The defendant, right? The defendant, obviously.
Yeah.
You're going to kill him, he ain't going to have Simchat Yom Tov. You know what else he's not going to have? Yom Tov. It's not a problem that he's not going to have happiness on Yom Tov. Hadda don't have Yom Tov. He's dead, he's in the ground, okay? It's not what it's talking about. Listen to this. The Gemara says, the Tanya, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva says, Minai in the Sanhedrin. When the Sanhedrin comes, they see someone that killed somebody. They don't eat anything the entire day. Talmud lomar, lo tochelu al adam. On the day that you're issuing a ruling on a death penalty, the Beit Din is not allowed to eat. Because then eating on the blood of the person that they're ruling that he's going to die. So it turns out that what? The Dayanim, if they're doing Danim Din Nefashot on the holiday, they kill the guy on the holiday, they're not allowed to eat on that day. What's the mitzvah v'samachta b'chagecha? To eat. So if you obligated the dayanim to be ruling on these cases,
They'd be eating.
you'd be ruining the Simcha Yom Tov.
Right.
And that would be, again, not for the guy.
Obviously,
That's why they're not
The
ruling.
judges.
So I told you before, don't ask me about Simcha Yom Tov, don't kill a guy. We're not talking about the guy getting his just recompense. We're talking about the judges being forced to rule on that day. I have a little bit of an answer to this from Masechet Makot. What's my answer? Jonah's going to get this. Why should I not be worried that they don't have to fast?
Once in 70 years.
Yeah, they kill a court.
Happens once in 70 years.
Wow.
More than once in 70 years, if they kill a guy, they're a bloody Sanhedrin.
Oh, very rarely do they do that.
Very rarely. So what are you going to tell me? Don't have them judge the case. You know why? Because we're scared the guy's going to not have. It's what are the odds?
Very infinitesimal.
Once in his whole
It's
life.
not based on that.
So it can't be that we're going to. That's my question on the item. However,
That's an item.
let's look back for 1
How
second.
about the Sinai? Where do you go, that guy? The main guy, Sinai. You nicknamed your friend Sinai. He said he was going to come back.
He is going to come back.
Another guy.
Let's look back. He's coming back. Hold on. Says the Gemara, right? Let's look back at this Rashi. Rashi says, where is it?
Where you gotta go?
No, he's got 4 minutes.
Yeah, a minute.
Where is this? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Cheaper.
Yes, huh?
Okay, I thought I saw, it must not have been here on the page on this question, on this exact question. Okay, never mind. Let's continue, okay? So, therefore the Gemara says, so it turns out, since it's going to prohibit the judges from being able to eat on the holiday, right? Therefore, it must mean, the Braita, that they're going to look at the case, but not going to judge on the case. Because one of the cases it says that they could judge on is Dinei Nefashot, and if they judge Dinei Nefashot, then they can't eat that day.
Can you just not kill people?
Sorry?
Only monetary cases then?
You gotta keep reading.
I don't
Oh, I
understand.
didn't go yet. I'm saying if there's no death, we learned in Makot,
No.
death penalty only.
Oh, hold up. If it means, the Braita, that they're listening but not adjudicating, they're listening but not giving the punishment, then it's going to mean that for all the cases.
Oh, not only capital.
Right.
deliberate.
Because when it says that they rule on cases, that they're going to see cases, doesn't mean that they're going to rule on them. How do I know it doesn't mean that? Because one of the three can't mean that. But if one of the three can't mean that, then seeing a case on the holiday doesn't mean that it comes to its conclusion. Okay? Says the Gemara, Ela, turns out, Liyune bedine. What we're going to do is, with regards to the mitah ones, it's talking about that they only study the case. They only look at the details of the case, but not that they do more. Hachanami also over here, with regards to all the other ones, liyune bedine. Also it means that liyune bedine. Now, I just want to point out, you know when they say, on who is the burden of proof here? If you're trying to tell me that I'm learning from this Braita that you could have excommunication and its laws on the holiday, the burden of proof is on me that the Mishnah means that you could rule and you could judge the case and issue a ruling. Okay? Abaye doesn't have to say that is the halakha. All he has to say is, maybe that's the halakha. You got it? If the Braita needs to definitively be talking, it needs to definitively be talking about ruling. If it could mean that it's not, that we're not going to rule, then you have no proof that excommunication lands on the holiday, because you have no proof that that's what the Braita means. In other words, let's say I have a contract, and in the contract it says that something and it's ambiguous. You want to take the money from me. The burden of proof to explain that the contract has to mean what you say is on you, not on me. I just have to prove ambiguity. I don't have to prove. That's called in Hebrew in halacha, Jewish halacha, hamotzi mehavero alav haraya. You want to take something from me? The burden of proof is on you. Okay? So same thing would be over here with regards to inferring the halacha as well. Let's continue. Says the Gemara. Oh boy, we're done. Let's just this is Abaye and Rabbi Yosef. Let's just finish this piece. Amalei said to him, if that's the case, that when a person they're going through the halachot, but they can't rule on it, nimtzet ma'aneh dino. 1 second. So we now have a ruling on this case, but we're not going to issue the ruling because of some technicality about v'samachta bechagecha for the judges. But that's called inui hadin, where you're delaying the judgment. You're not allowed to delay the judgment. It needs to be administered immediately. Ella, what's the answer? Atu mitzafra ma'ine bedine. They come in the morning and they learn up the case. V'ayli v'achlu v'shatu kol yoma. Then they go and they do their meal for the holiday. Then what happens after they've eaten and they've ate, they drank, they did everything they need to do? V'hadar atu b'shkat hama. They come before sunset. V'gamrin adin, and that's when they finally bring down the gavel. V'katlu le, and they can kill him.
But they didn't eat.
Who said they have to get drunk? It's not Purim.
They didn't fast.
Sorry?
They didn't fast.
No, that's the whole point. After you kill the guy, you can't eat on that day.
Only after.
I thought before. You said before.
Kol otayom. If you're going to kill the guy, if you have a ruling of killing him, then kol otayom. But until I have a ruling of killing him, what he saw? I don't know where this is going.
They're fasting in preparation for the.
Yeah, we thought they were
judgment.
fasting before.
Improve their,
They're going to rule. So
The Gemara left that unclear, ambiguous. Rav Yosef is saying, no, maybe it means clearly that you're able to game the system and have your meal, like they say, and eat it too, and kill him too. Okay. Abaye says, Tashma, come and learn. Menuda shetir lo chachamim. If you have a menuda that he got permission from the chachamim, what are we talking about over here? We're talking about a guy whose nidui was uplifted by the chachamim on Chol HaMoed. Okay? What do we say that the halacha is? That he's then allowed to shave. So what does it seem clear? It seems clear that it's only if they remove the chachamim, remove the nidui, that he's able to do this. If you want to say that the person who has nidui on the holiday is not exempt, is exempt, why'd they have to remove it? Even if they didn't remove it, he could have shaved. Bomb question from Abaye, from the Mishnah. Rava says, Mi katani sheitiru chachamim. Does it say that the chachamim were matir him? No. Sheitiru lo chachamim. It says rather that they absolved him. In other words, it's not shehitiru chachamim. It's hitiru lo chachamim. That they allowed him. Da'azalu paiseh baldineh. It's talking about where the guy actually made amends. He went and he gave the get. He went and he solved the monetary dispute. He went and he turned up to Beit Din. So in a case where they lifted it from him, then va'atakamed rabanan v'sharle, and then at that point they removed the ban from him. Okay, we'll continue in explaining this Be'ezrat Hashem next time and continue in the Mishnah.
Worried about the haircut. The guy's going to get murdered, excommunicated. He's worried about cutting his hair.